Hi, this is Fady from Harvey Productions and welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to go through a detailed review of the Audioscape Pultec EQ analog unit. We'll run through audio comparisons, we'll run through all specs and features of it, we'll run through all the knobs and the buttons on it and what they do and what all the specs of each one, as well as we're going to go to a Pro Tool session here and then just to listen to the Pultec EQ on bass, drums, vocals, a bunch of other samples, and then we can see what that thing can do and why is it a very, very famous EQ in the industry. I also have some Pultec EQ plugins in my session that I probably want to go through as well, and then just maybe A/B the difference between the Audioscape one and the plugin, and then we get to listen together to it. I'm going to actually be judging as I'm listening with you guys. I did not pre-prepare the samples and nor pre-prepared my decision either. So make sure you stick around and let's go through it. Before we dig into the Pro Tools session, let's go through the Pultec layout and then what are all these buttons mean, because it's a little bit confusing and we want to make sure we understand all the features in it before we can actually start using it. So my unit is all the way back there, so I have a different camera set up back there and I'm going to go over there and walk through it. Okay, so as you guys can see, here's the unit. This is the Audioscape version. It's a 3-rack unit, which is similar to the original Pultec, which is also a 3-rack unit. I believe Worm Audio has one that is only a 2-rack unit instead of 3. Pultec EQ are tube equalizers. So they have tubes on the back. And then you have basically, if you want to break it down into a simple way that is not confusing, it's broken into 3 sections. This triangle is one section, and then this triangle is the other section, and then these 2 buttons are their own section. So these 3 buttons are one section, these 3 buttons are one section, and then these 2 buttons are its own section. So it's going to go through all of it. Obviously, this is on and off button, turns the unit on and off. I've got several questions about this. So bypass and engaged. And then people was like, why do we have this and this? Believe it or not, it actually makes a difference. So if the unit is on and I'm passing audio through this, and then even if I have everything at 0, so I'm not boosting or adding any EQ or attenuating, everything is completely flat and it's going through the unit, it does add a little bit of a tube coloring to the unit, and it actually sounds pretty good. I've really enjoyed it. I've ran before some channels through it without even any boosting or cutting or anything like that. So this is bypassed and engaged. Because I have a patch bay, so we'll bypass and engage from the patch bay so that way we can listen to with and without pretty easy. Okay, now let's go through the low end. So low end, so down here you get to select your low end frequency. So 20 hertz, 30, 60, up to 100. Which frequency are you going to be messing with? And then you got 2 buttons for that frequency, a boost button and attenuate, which is a cut. And I know it's weird the fact that you would boost, let's say we got to 60 hertz and you would boost 4 dB of 60 and then cut 4 dB of 60. Some people might be like, this doesn't make any sense. It actually, somehow it does. And what the cutting and the boosting, they both add different sonic character to the sound, and they actually sound different. And we'll run some samples here and play with it a little bit and have you guys see it. Then right here is the second set, which is your high. Starts at 3K all the way to 16K. So this one has 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 16K. So you get to select which frequency do you want. But then also you have band, a sharp band and a broad band. So your Q, how wide your Q or how narrow. This is narrow and this is wide. And then right here become the boost of that frequency. So these 3 buttons are together. And then the attenuate has its own frequency, which is only 5K, 10K, and 20K. So I'm saying I want to go to the 5K, I want to cut or attenuate some from the high frequency. Those are different. So this is basically simple run through what all these buttons do, and the plugins look pretty much the same and they operate in a similar manner as well. Now let's go to a Pro Tools session. Okay, we got a Pro Tools session in here, and let's start with just a bass guitar. It's a mono bass guitar that I tracked in here. So this is the raw bass guitar. I don't have anything or any processing on it at all. All right, so I am using the Pro Tool hardware inserts as I've showed in some of my other videos. And then on that insert, I labeled it Analog Pultec. And then I have another set of a bass channel in here that I put just the Universal Audio Pultec EQ. And then that way we can match some settings and kind of listen to the difference. Okay, so on a bass guitar, let's go back to the unit in here. I'm probably gonna go, depending on the genre of music what I'm going, so this is more like a rock, beefy bass. I didn't have a lot of sub on that bass, so I'm gonna go to 30 hertz, and I'm actually going to boost maybe 5 dB at 30 hertz and attenuate to maybe like 2.5. And then I wanna grab some of that mid grid from that, so I'm gonna go to 3K, at a medium size bandwidth, and I'm going to boost that to maybe here. Then I'm going to attenuate the 20K. I don't need much of that 20K. All right, so let's listen to that bass right now. So this is with the Pultec on. I'm going to bypass the Pultec right now. Here's without. And I'm going to turn it on and off. So I'm going to put the patch bay right here so you guys can see it. I'm going to be turning the Pultec on and off. It's amazing, the difference. The low-end punch, the cleaner mid-range, it's significant. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep the bass play going, and I'm gonna go to the unit, and I'm gonna start messing with the settings of the unit, and as you guys are hearing it in real time as I'm making changes. One of the things about the Pultec EQ that I wanna mention before we move forward, I've noticed with the analog unit, I was able to push it a whole lot more, specifically the Pultec. Like the boost, I could do a lot of boosting on that unit and I don't have to worry about it. It still sounds good. It's not like what a plugin would do. Actually, before we go, let's compare this to the plugin. So let's kind of match the settings here. We boosted about 5 dB at 30 hertz. And then we attenuated 2.5. Then we grabbed the bandwidth at 3K and we boosted 4 dB. So here's 4. And then we attenuated at 20K and we cut about 4 as well. So this is kind of matched settings in here between both. The levels are the same. They should be. All right, here we go. Let's try it. So the top one would be the plugin, and then the bottom one will be the analog unit. They're pretty close. I can tell just a little bit of a difference, especially, and make sure when you're listening to this, because we're boosting 30 hertz, so we're messing with like really low end frequency. So make sure you're listening on some nice headphones that have really a lot of low end, or nice set of speakers in your studio. So I have my MM27s, which has a lot of low end and subs in it, so I'm able to tell a lot in that low end. And the one of the main differences I'm noticing is that the punch at the 30, because whenever you boost low ends that deep down low, a lot of times with plugins it ends up being a little muddy, but with this it feels very clean. All right, let's go to some exaggerated now frequencies. So I'm gonna play that bass and I'm gonna go to the unit here. I'm gonna mess with it a little bit. It's crazy. I literally had the boost almost all the way to 9 and 10, which is maxed out. And it still sounds amazing. And I'm actually able to manipulate that bass tone a lot to go from thinner to deeper to punchier and brighter to darker to more subharmonics on it. It's awesome how much control you have over it. Okay, let's move from a bass to a snare top. I actually use that plugin a lot on snare top. So I'm just gonna move this over here to the snare top. So here's the snare without any of the Pultec. This is a drum session that I've recorded, and I believe this was 57 on the snare top. And I purposely recorded it with no processing, no EQ, nothing. So it's a really clean signal, so that way we can manipulate it here a little bit with the Pultec and then see what it feels like. All right, now I'm gonna add the Pultec in. Since this is a snare, let me go back here and adjust the settings a little bit. So we'll go back and forth between 30, 60, and 100 on those. So I'm gonna start with the 60. I'm gonna actually go for like a beefier snare. So I'm boosting 6, cutting 4, and then I like to boost around 8K to get more of that crisp out of the snare. And then I'm attenuating a little bit of the harshness of the snare at 5K. Let's kind of see what that feels like. And then I'm doing more broader bandwidth because it's honestly using it more like a shelf around 8K to add some more air to the snare, basically. Here we go. The difference is significant, especially the bottom end of that snare. Let's kind of boost that even a little bit further. So I'm going to go to 100 now instead of 60. And then I'm going to push that all the way to 8. And I'm going to push my highs to get real crisp snare. Now let's take the plugin and let's match what we did. So we went to 100 and we went to 8. And then we went to bandwidth all the way to 6.5. And then we were boosting 8K all the way up to 8. Then attenuating 5 at 2.5. So this is 2.5. And then this attenuate to 4. All right, so this should be matching settings now. Then let's kind of make sure that, yeah, it is active. Okay, and let's kind of play both, and I'm going to go between both. So starting with the top one is the plugin, the bottom one is the actual unit, the hardware. The top end is close. It's a little cleaner and less harsh on the analog unit, which I understand because the tubes are a bit warmer, the real tubes. But the bottom end is actually different. How beefy and more round and punchier on the analog unit is actually better, significantly better. I've used other Pultec plugins. This is my favorite, which is the UAD one. I've tried the Waves one, and I've tried a couple others. I wasn't a huge fan. I think the UAD was the closest to the original that I really liked, but still the analog unit wins for me. Let's go with drum room. Let's try a drum room here. And let's just keep the settings as the same. So you guys can hear as I'm messing with it. The kick is more round, has more punch to it. Snare is definitely much beefier. It feels bigger and more full. Let's go to vocals, because I use these on vocals all the time. Actually, that Pultec stays on my vocal chain for every single tracking session that I use. Even if I'm not going to use any of the settings, I just leave it as is and then just run it through the tubes in there. So we'll try a male vocal and a female vocal. And normally for a male vocal, I would go for, I'm going to add just boost a little bit around 100 to add just some warmth, and then I'll attenuate there as well. And then I would go to the 8K, and I'll boost a little bit, maybe around here. And then I'll attenuate at the 20K, which kind of gets rid of a little bit of the higher S's and the super high harsh frequencies. So let's kind of try that. Between 10 and 20, we'll try both. And then the bandwidth, a little smaller.
I studied your shape, baby, I traced you. So don't fear all the lies, 'cause I won't erase you. I'll spend my whole life amazed by your outline.
All right, so you can obviously tell the big difference here is the crisp on the top end. And I went with a little bit more than I would like to, because this was a Neumann mic. So that mic is a little brighter anyways. So I probably won't boost as much, but I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna keep that playing, and I'm gonna exaggerate some of these frequencies on vocals. So that way you can guys get an idea of what would that feel like. So here's the vocal take.
I studied your shape, baby, I traced you. So don't fear all the lies, 'cause I won't erase you. I'll spend my whole life amazed by your outline, thinking I hope you look at me like you look at stars at night with those brown eyes. And I hope you still get lost in this love of ours. Forever will never be too long. Baby, I think you and I are going places. Oh yeah, we're going places. For heaven's sake, we can make history. Oh, history.
I think you guys can tell the difference here. Bottom end, more round, more punchy, a little warmer. You got that top end punch to the track where it's more crisp. It's a little brighter, but it's not harsh bright. It's not the one that is unpleasant. It's actually really round, pleasant top end to the vocals. Let's try it with a female vocal. And I'll put that on a loop, and then I'll go back and mess with it a little bit.
Let's change the world and save it with our love, and we'll shine so bright like it's the middle of the night. Love is a word that we've all heard, but can't find the definition. We could bring some clarity to a world in need. Oh, if we just believe beyond what we can see. Let's change the world and save it with our love, and we'll shine so bright like it's the middle of the night. Love is a word that we've all heard, but can't find the definition. We could bring some.
So you can obviously tell I boosted the highs even more than I normally would. We're about 7 decibels higher here. It's turned all the way up to 7. And on the girls' vocals, who are naturally a little bit more bright, and I believe this was a Neumann U89, which is a Neumann is a little bit brighter mic in general, but it's still pleasant. I'm getting that crisp, clean top end without having to worry about it. So honestly, I've been doing this in my tracking vocals, and I would run the vocals through it. in the process of engineering and tracking, and I get like that really round, but also crisp, and was a good low end punch, and then a really clean top end crisp, and then I don't have to do anything else to it. Like I never go back into my DAW and add anything. Anything after that in my mixing session is literally become in a process of elimination. So I would use some form of a dynamic EQ to get rid of some harsh frequencies in her vocals. I would use something like Soothe to kind of round it up a little bit, and then I would use a de-esser, and then some saturation and verbs. Sometimes I actually run the saturation from my analog unit. And I had a full video on vocal chain, what does my vocal chain look like, and what did I pass through it, so you guys can watch it and get an idea from it. But in regards for this video, I think you guys got an idea. This is the Audioscape Pultec EQ. This unit is absolutely incredible. I've been using it for over a year now. Absolutely in love with it, hoping to get a second one so I can have a stereo pair for a lot of my stereo tracking for like acoustic guitars and pianos and stuff like that. You can push it hard and get a lot of tone and character from it, and it still sounds pleasant to the ear, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about it. If this video is helpful, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment if you have any questions about anything I said today, and I'll see you guys at the next one.